Welcome to the Swimmingdon Club Awards webinar. My name is Lindsay Dunn and I'm one of the Swimmingdon National Talent Officers. Today I will be delivering a webinar through which I will be explaining the rationale behind the development of the new Club Awards for swimming and providing some guidance around how this new awards scheme can be effectively implemented into your club programmes. Firstly, we're going to look at how this new awards scheme will fit into our existing Learn to Swim and Aquatic Skills framework. Swimmers must have passed level 7 of the Learn to Swim framework before undertaking either stages 8 to 10 of the Aquatic Skills framework or the Club Awards. The Aquatic Skills framework is now intended to be delivered within leisure centre environments, predominantly by swimming teachers. By completing stages 8 to 10, swimmers will be able to swim with improved efficiency, maximising their ability to gain health and fitness benefits from participation in the sport. Swimmers will also be encouraged, where appropriate, to try other aquatic disciplines, such as water polo, diving and synchronised swimming. The newly introduced Club Awards have been designed for delivery within club programmes by swimming coaches. By completing these 6 awards, swimmers would demonstrate their ability to be able to perform all of the fundamental strokes and skills required for early engagement in competitive swimming. As with the Aquatic Skills framework, swimmers will also be encouraged, where appropriate, to try other aquatic disciplines. Notably, there are awards available for each of our aquatic disciplines, but today's session will focus on the 6 levels of the Club Awards for swimming. When swimmers pass each of these 6 levels, they have the opportunity to purchase certificates and pin badges. The key rationale behind the development of the new Club Awards is to improve the technical development of our young age group swimmers as they transition from Learn to Swim programmes into competitive swimming clubs. As mentioned previously, they are designed to be delivered by swimming coaches. Assistant coaches must be supervised by a swimming coach or senior coach. The target audience is approximately 7 to 12 years of age, with swimmers aiming towards county and regional championships. The expected delivery period. Outcomes that are listed on these awards should become an integral part of an overall scheme of work, where technical skill development should be the priority, but physical, psychological and tactical capabilities must also be worked on. Whilst you may group swimmers according to the club award that they have achieved, please be prepared for those swimmers who advance more in some areas of the award scheme than others. For example, you may have a swimmer who has picked up the dive start really well, but is struggling with the backstroke start, perhaps due to their inability to hold their body in the starting position. It may therefore be possible that a swimmer achieves the outcomes on Award 5 for their dive start, but only the outcomes on Award 3 for the backstroke start within the same time frame. We advise that you stay focused on the main award that you are working towards, but don't be afraid to challenge individuals who are more capable in certain areas. The size of your individual club programme will determine how many groups or squads you decide to have working towards each of these award levels. For example, you may have one squad that is working only towards levels 1 and 2, a second squad that is working towards levels 3 and 4, and a third squad that is working towards levels 5 and 6. Obviously, larger programmes may decide to have more groups and perhaps only work towards one award within that group, and smaller clubs may have to house a group of swimmers that might be working across the full spectrum of the 6 awards. I'm now going to introduce you to the Youth Physical Development Model, which was produced by Roderian Lloyd and John Oliver in 2012. This model has underpinned some of our development as a governing body, Swim England and British Swimming, in terms of our domestic competition review and subsequently reviews of the long-term athlete development model. Throughout these awards, you will mainly be working with pre-adolescent children and those entering early adolescence. Fundamental movement skills are clearly very important to be developed in middle childhood, things like running, throwing, jumping. But through the latter part of middle childhood into early adolescence, we should see a shift in emphasis towards sport-specific movement skills. By sport-specific movement skills, we're talking about things such as starts, turns, fundamental effective and efficient stroke technique, push-offs, streamlining, underwaters, transition to strokes. What this chart does is it explains what physical qualities are most trainable at different chronological and biological ages. So we've used this to underpin some of our rationale behind developing these awards. As the font size becomes bold and larger, it basically means that that quality is more trainable. Hence the reason for specifically identifying the need to focus on our sport-specific movement skills. What's also worth noting is that endurance training, what we also can refer to as metabolic conditioning, so the development of our aerobic capacity, can perhaps be developed much later than perhaps we originally thought. So our advice is that if you are in a swimming program that has limited water time, with this age and stage of development of athlete, that we do focus primarily on their technical development. You can still improve some of the physical capabilities alongside this, for example, by doing kicking practices without fins on for some of the drills will still help to improve their aerobic capabilities. I'll now move on to the specific syllabus outline. So basically this slide shows you a list of all of the different things that we will cover as part of the syllabus. All of these skills are extremely important in terms of developing our young competitive swimmers. The majority of the syllabus will of course be positioned to be delivered within the pool environment, but there are a number of supplementary knowledge areas where we would advise that this is delivered potentially away from the pool. For example, teaching swimmers around things like process goals, nutrition, hydration. So what I'll do now is start to work through each of the components of the syllabus and just provide a little bit more detail around what we're looking to cover in each of these areas. So first of all, we're talking about effective stroke technique. By effective, we're talking about doing the right thing. So in essence, getting the mechanics of the stroke performed correctly in the first instance, before we perhaps start to be too concerned with efficiency and coordination. So fundamentally, we're aiming to promote the concept of building the stroke from the correct body position. So in terms of front crawl and backstroke, our long axis rotational strokes, effective technique will require the generation of hip-led rotation, optimal range of rotation, rotational control, even rotation from left to right side, and then the connectivity of this rotation into balanced continuous limb actions. For breaststroke and butterfly, our short axis anti-rotational strokes requires effective technique to involve the resistance of rotation in order to maintain a level hip and shoulder position to ensure symmetrical limb actions. In terms of developing effective technique, here are some of our key resources that we think will be useful for you to take a look at. Initially, we have our British Swimming online portal, so video footage and PDF fact sheets. You can sign up to Off the Blocks by typing in this link and sending it in, basically a request in to British Swimming, and they will provide you with a username over the next 1 to 2 days. We also have some coach symposium footage from 2016, which covered aquatic alignment, streamlining, underwater transitions into stroke, and effective and efficient technique on each of the 4 strokes. We also, as a national governing body, work with our county swimming associations to provide county development programmes where we have experienced coaches delivering 3 one-day camps between April and October each year, with the key pool syllabus being around these key areas of aquatic alignment, streamlining, underwater transitions, and effective technique on all 4 strokes. So if you're one of the coaches that would prefer to actually go along and see some of this coaching in action, then this would be an opportunity for you to attend as an observer. You can also apply through your county swimming associations to be a skills coach on one of these programmes. Finally, we also produce annually our Swim England Talent Pathway brochure, and here is the link to that document. This brochure will provide you with a comprehensive overview of what the national governing body deliver through the Talent Pathway, and also the work that we do with our county and our regional swimming associations. It also covers what we deliver for swimmers and for summer development, and in turn our coaches and coach development. Next we'll move on to starts. So being able to perform an effective and efficient competitive start requires specific work being undertaken in the pool and on dry land to address each of the component parts of this skill. These are what to do during the long whistle warnings, what position to adopt during the take your marks instruction, what happens in terms of the movement patterns when the signal for go is announced. We also then look at the flight and the entry. The Club Award Scheme advocates the principle that swimmers must firstly be able to get into the correct set position when the order to take your marks is given. If a start is not set up correctly, then it is unlikely that the subsequent movements will be technically proficient. When you use the Off the Blocks resource, you will see that there are a number of video clips and also PDF footage, such as the one which appears on the right-hand side of this slide. The fact sheets are actually 4 pages long. This is just the first page of the Backstroke Start PDF fact sheet. The supplementary information also includes advice and guidance around physical requirements for undertaking effective and efficient starts, testing and monitoring, the rules, coaching process and control, land training exercises, skill development, interpreting the rules, and common faults and fixes. These PDF documents can all be downloaded and printed for use from the Off the Blocks online platform. Similarly, being able to perform effective and efficient competitive turns requires specific work being undertaken in the pool and again on dry land to address each of the component parts of the skills which are listed above. We have here listed a couple of different examples because we all, of course, have 2 different types of turns. So we have our turns, for example, on butterfly and breaststroke, which are our touch turns, where we approach, touch, rotate and touch again with our feet and push off away from the wall. We also have our rotational turns, such as on front crawl and backstroke, where we approach, rotate, touch the wall with our feet and push off the wall again. So similarly, if you were to use the Off the Blocks resource, you would be able to download some PDF fact sheets and watch a number of different video clips which will take you through each of the turn skills. The club awards, similarly, as we talked about with the starts, advocate the principle that swimmers must firstly be able to approach the wall correctly on a turn technique prior to being able to perform all of the subsequent movements technically proficiently. So when you go into these fact sheets, you will again find that they are 4 pages long and cover all of the same supplementary information that we discussed with the start fact sheets. The off-the-box resource also includes key information about finishes, specifically through some coaching fact sheets. So again, being able to perform effective and efficient competitive finishes will require specific work being undertaken in the pool and on dry land to address each of the component parts of this skill. In essence, very simply with finishes, how we approach, time the last stroke onto the wall, and how we make effective contact onto the wall. The Club Award scheme advocates the principle that swimmers must firstly be able to approach the wall correctly. Otherwise, it is of course unlikely that they will be able to judge their finish correctly and make effective wall contact. As with the starts and turns PDF fact sheets, we also have a 4-page document which includes a number of items of supplementary information. In terms of coaching, starts, turns and finishes, of course our British Swimming online portal, Off the Box, is going to be a key resource for you to make use of. Similarly, we also have some coach symposium footage from 2015, which covered starts and turns on all 4 strokes, and we've included the link here on this slide. Again, for those coaches that would rather attend coach development in person, we have a number of regional development programs which take place between July and December each year in each of our 8 regions. We have 3 one-day camps for swimmers and coaches. Coaches can also attend not simply as an employed skills coach, but also just in the capacity as an observer. And the syllabus primarily covers starts, turns and finishes. And again, just to reiterate, we have our Swimming Gun Talent Pathway brochure, which outlines our pathway activities and the work that takes place between the national governing body and our county and regional swimming associations. So we're now going to move on to talking about stroke efficiency. Now, in essence, I mentioned earlier about effective stroke technique and described that as doing the right thing. So basically getting the mechanics of the stroke performed in the correct order, getting our hand placed in the right position, making sure that our leg action is correct. What we're now going to move on to is looking at efficient stroke technique, which in effect is about doing things right. In coaching, this means we need to consider the coordination of movement to ensure that we have excellent economy of movement and minimal wasted energy and effort. So we provide an example here of a stroke efficiency test that you may want to do with your swimmers during one of your training sessions. We have a number of examples of this described within our progressions document, and this is just basically one of these examples. So in essence, you would take the time for a set distance. So a swimmer perhaps could do this for themselves if you've done enough work around reading the pace clock and timing themselves as part of that set of the criteria. Otherwise, you may need to time this, but in essence, they would swim perhaps for 50 metres and they would take their time for that 50 metres to the nearest second. They would then count their strokes for the same distance. And let's say, for example, that they did 30 strokes. Perhaps 14 down the first bend and 16 down the second of a 25-metre pool. Their total score would therefore be the time taken, 50 seconds, added to the number of strokes, 30, to create an overall score of 80. The task would then be for the swimmer to undertake a small set. So let's say 650s, where you are aiming to reduce your score, either by swimming slightly faster, or reducing the stroke count, or a combination of the two. And this exercise would hopefully highlight to swimmers that as they increase their swimming speed, their aim is fundamentally to maintain their stroke length and their efficiency. What we'd also need to ensure to be able to standardise and test stroke efficiency effectively is make sure that kick counts are even off both walls throughout the set. Obviously, if off one wall they decide to do a lot more kicks, it will of course reduce their number of strokes, and the test won't actually be testing their stroke efficiency. This same approach can also be used with kick and pull work, in that we can measure kick and pull efficiency separately with the similar method outlined above. Our syllabus within the Club Awards for swimming also includes the coaching of relay takeovers. Obviously, we're all aware that relay races are integral to both our domestic competition programme and the international competition programme. Within the Club Awards, relay takeovers are introduced at Award 3. Coaches are encouraged initially to get swimmers to practice the simple step and swing sequence on the poolside first, and then into a shallow racing dive from the side of the pool throughout Awards 3 and 4. Swimmers must ideally first master the swing and step from the poolside before progressing to doing this from the starting block, and then taking over from an incoming swimmer. This will often then take place at Awards 5. In essence, once you've got to the point where a swimmer is practicing relay takeovers with an incoming swimmer, you could perhaps integrate relay takeover practice with practicing finishes. Because obviously, to be able to do an effective relay takeover that's legal requires mutual responsibility from both the outgoing swimmer in terms of timing and judging the swimmer's finish in the water, but also making sure that the incoming swimmer judges their finish correctly and doesn't, for example, finish with a short stroke or have to extend and glide into the wall. In terms of key resources to develop stroke efficiency and relay takeovers, again, we can link into some areas of our off-the-blocks online portal. We also have our national development programmes, which take place in 6 zonal locations between September and December each year. We operate 3 one-day camps, with the syllabus focus being around 4-stroke efficiency, individual medley swimming, and individual medley transition turns, and also our relay takeovers. So again, please get in touch with our national talent team if you wish to come along as an observer, or indeed be considered to take one of the places as an employed skills coach. Finally, once again, just as a last reminder, please make sure you have a look at our Swim England Talent Pathway brochure, because again, this does clearly define all of the opportunities within the talent pathway for swimmers and coaches to develop. So we're now going to go through some of these supplementary areas of the syllabus, perhaps that don't specifically relate to our swimming skills in the water. So first of all, we're going to look at use of the pace clock. Obviously, being able to use the pace clock is essential for effective management of lane space. But we as a governing body feel that it's also really critical in terms of developing autonomy within our young swimmers, and fundamentally, in order to enable our coach to be able to focus on coaching. So often we see coaches operating with young swimmers where the swimmers are not able to set themselves off correctly from the pace clock, and the coach is having to stand at one end of the pool and set them off at 5 or 10 second intervals, for example. Whereas actually the coach's time would be much better served by being able to walk down the pool and watch the swimmers doing their technique and be able to give them feedback at the end of each of their 25s or 50s. So we do think that it's a really important skill to coach and teach our young swimmers. But similarly, this can be taught outside the pool. So some time could be taken before or after some of our swim sessions to just specifically take some swimmers into perhaps a classroom space or a studio area at the leisure centre and just talk to them, maybe get them to play with some plastic pace clocks, and just get them to learn how to use these more effectively. Throughout the Club Awards, we also recommend the use of different types of equipment, which we believe will help to enhance the technical and physical development of our young swimmers. Obviously, we have our hats and goggles in our kit bags, but we also specifically talk about some of our swimming-specific equipment that will be used as part of their training sessions. So first of all, we have a pull buoy, obviously which will be used when you want to do isolated work, just perhaps with the arms, or to have a smaller amount of buoyancy for some of your kick work. We also advocate the use of a small alignment board for things like breaststroke kick. Often we find that with some of our larger boards, it effectively props the athletes up quite high in the water and causes hyperextension of the lower back and doesn't actually put them in a swimming-specific position to practice their kick. So we are advocating a lot more use of things like alignment boards and snorkels to be able to kick in more swimming-specific positions rather than simply using large kickboards, which often put the swimmers in ineffective or inappropriate swimming positions. We also just want to specifically talk about fins. So in the main, we're talking about our short blade fins, where the swimmers can keep a relatively fast frequency of kicking action, and also our small finger paddles. So again, with most of our swimmers at this age and stage of development, they don't have consistently effective movement patterns. So using some of the large hand paddles, they often don't have enough strength or really well ingrained movement patterns. And the larger hand paddles can actually start to cause them to adopt different movement patterns in the water, which aren't always most effective. For example, we often see a swimmer undertaking backstroke with large hand paddles, and they will start to pull quite wide and shallow close to the surface of the water because the hand paddles are so large. So it is really important that we do advocate appropriate use of different types of equipment and that we use equipment to help reinforce good technical habits rather than perhaps cause some technical issues. We also want to, of course, give our young swimmers some basic education around how to manage their nutrition and hydration pre and post and obviously during their training sessions. So we've included some basic nutrition, first and foremost, and then also hydration fact sheets. The nutrition fact sheet is included on our Off the Blocks resource, our online platform, and the hydration fact sheet that's included here is part of our online resources specifically for the Club Awards. We're obviously keen as a governing body to see some of these good habits starting much earlier in our young swimmers' development and therefore being ingrained and familiar as they progress through the athlete pathway. Within the Club Awards syllabus, we've also attempted to explain the difference between process and outcome goals and tried to advocate the use of process goals within our young swimmers. So in terms of just clarifying the difference between outcome and process, with an outcome approach, what we would see is an emphasis on social comparison, for example, beating other opponents. And perhaps swimmers, parents and coaches may choose to value attainment over effort. So for example, winning a race or achieving a personal best time, rather perhaps than just the effort or attention to the skills and execution of the race. They'd often provide feedback in quite a critical manner, whether that's self-feedback from the swimmer or feedback that comes externally from perhaps a coach or a parent. And perhaps a coach who is outcome-focused would at times allow their swimmers to continue to undertake a difficult training set despite an athlete's technique drastically deteriorating. So you may hear an athlete talking from an outcome-focused perspective around things like aiming to beat other people because winning is the most important thing. Certainly we want our young swimmers to be competitive, and that's why they're going to get involved in a competitive sport. But what we know is that if they can focus more on the process and how they also desire. So in terms of the process focus, what we're actually looking at is trying to emphasize mastery of skills and personal improvement. So for example, valuing effort, promoting learning from mistakes, and focusing on things like technical skill development. So a process goal that an athlete may hold may be something like them aiming to consistently perform 3 dolphin kicks off each wall when given a basic front crawl stroke efficiency set. In your role as a coach, we want you to consider how you interpret the sporting environment for your summers. Within sport, we can consider how we do things, the process, and what we achieve by doing those things, the outcome. The emphasis that you put on each of these will indirectly influence the way in which young people define success and failure, and to focus on process rather than outcome within the training and the competition environment. Part of the syllabus does require the summers to be able to set basic process goals. So again, what we're advocating is very much that they take ownership over their own learning. Obviously, you as a coach will give them some clear direction throughout the session, but we want them to hold that process goal and be able to still go away and think about those coaching points, despite you not being able to give them constant feedback, because you're obviously operating in the main within large groups of summers. I've also just included here for your interest one of our race objective sheets, which has been produced by British Swimming and adopted by Swim England. So we also use this process within competition environments, and you will note that we don't allow swimmers to talk about specific times on race day. We very much ask them to focus on the process of executing their race. So how many butterfly kicks will they do off the wall? How explosive will they be off the start? How will they smoothly transition into their first stroke? Will they hold that nice easy speed? Will they build in the second part of the race? Will they try to hold their stroke length and maintain a strong kick down the second 50 of their 100 metres free start? So we're still advocating very much a process focus in competition, even at the higher levels of the pathway, as much as we are in their very formative years of engagement in the sport. So again, we have some key resources which will help us in the delivery of these particular areas of the syllabus. So our off-the-box online resource again, which, as I mentioned previously, does include lots of information around things like lifestyle management and nutrition. And we've included the nutrition fact sheet in our resources specifically for these awards. We also have the hydration fact sheet. We have the British Swimming Race Process Objective Sheet, which I've placed on the slide for you today. And we have all of our county, regional and national development programmes. And the reason that I've named them all on this particular slide is that on each of those programmes, there are also a number of land training sessions and also educational workshops around things such as lifestyle management, nutrition, hydration, which in the pool, they are about helping our young swimmers, coaches and parents to be able to develop those skills required outside of the pool as well. Firstly, we have RAISE, which fundamentally just involves an elevation of the core body temperature. We then move on to mobilising, so effectively mobilising key joints through specific ranges of movement that are relevant to the sport of swimming. We then activate key muscle groups to get them fired up ready, particularly more so for our explosive activities. And then we have our priming, so again where we start to do some sport-specific movements at higher forces and higher speeds. So we do have an online link which takes you through each of those 4 sections and gives you examples of exercises and some key coaching points. So I've included a few of them in the slides today, and I'll also show you the link towards the end of this section. So next we've got the raising core body temperature exercises, things such as skipping, jogging, high heel flicks to the bottom, high knee lifts, for example. We also have some mobilizing exercises for different parts of the body. Activation work, and also priming exercises. You'll see throughout the slides that they're also given different levels, and these reflect their difficulty ratings. So when you're starting to introduce these activities with your young swimmers, we would obviously be starting by using level 1, very basic activities, and be mindful of the environment in which you're working. So if, for example, you're doing this on poolside, you probably need to be doing things like mountain climbers, perhaps, rather than things like running around. So please just make sure that you do effective risk assessments and work with your local leisure centre in terms of what is appropriate to be undertaken in those different environments. Preferably this would be done away from the pool, but obviously we're mindful that clubs have limited resources to be able to do this. Similarly, Swim England are also advocating that best practice around training and competition would involve swimmers understanding and implementing appropriate recovery strategies. So initially, for swimmers of this age and stage of development, we would simply recommend a series of stretches aimed at improving and maintaining range of movement. So again, we've included a post-pool mobility fact sheet. So some key rationale to start with around when we should stretch, what position we should stretch in, how long we should hold each stretch for, how many times we should repeat the stretch, what type of stretch should be done. And then we've included a number of examples of different types of stretches. So here is the link for the pre-pool dryland RMAT protocol, which has those online videos that you can go and have a look at and use exercises and key coaching points to enhance your delivery of pre-pool dryland exercises to your swimmers. The post-pool mobility fact sheet was specifically produced for the Club Awards, and that is in your resource pack online. And again, just to reiterate that on our county, regional and national development programmes, we do pre and post-pool before and after every training session, and we also have dryland training workshops on each of those camps. So again, there are opportunities to come along and learn about what these aspects of the sport look like. We're also currently in the process of producing a dryland training qualification programme for our swimming coaches within the governing body. So just watch this space around that over the forthcoming months. So finally, I'm just going to recap around some of our additional resources. So we are looking at producing some sample schemes of work for those of you that perhaps want some additional guidance around the implementation of these awards into an overall training programme. We also have some registers, so options are available to use these electronically or for these to be printed off. It's also worth noting that as part of our work with the county and regional swimming associations, we do hold county conferences in each region every March and regional conferences in each region every June. And we very much talk about a lot of these topic areas that we've covered today that are relevant to athletes of this age and stage of development. We are mindful that we don't currently have resources around the coaching of relay takeovers, so we'll be looking into that over the forthcoming months. But again, be mindful that we do cover the coaching of these skills on our national development programmes. Swim England would also just finally like to extend our thanks to two of our expert reviewers. The Club Awards programme was put together in collaboration between the club development team within Swim England, who have led on this project, with work and support from Swim England Talent and also the Learn to Swim team. but we've used a couple of our expert coaches out in the field to review these awards and hopefully improve the work that we have done internally. So we'd like to thank Ewan Dale, the Director of Swimming at Millfield School. Ewan was very kind in terms of offering an endorsement of the awards by stating that the use of these awards is fundamental to the long-term development of aspiring swimmers. The ability to break the skills down and progress them effectively is what makes the biggest difference to the potential of our young swimmers. Getting the basics right through the use of a systematic award structure is an exciting prospect. We will be implementing this system at Millfield School. So firstly, thank you to Ewan for his support with this process. And secondly, thank you to Amanda Booth, the head coach of the City of Oxford Swimming Club. Amanda again has provided us with an endorsement which states that this award system will help coaches focus on the progressive development of basic skills. It will help swimmers improve proprioceptive and spatial awareness necessary for acquiring and developing specific movement patterns for swimming. Developing fundamental movement skills is essential for long-term development of all young swimmers. The coaching team at the City of Oxford Swimming Club will use this system as a template for the development of our junior squads. So that's the end of our session today. If you would like any further information about the Swimmingdon Club Award Scheme, please contact your local club development officer